TF Wire presents War Stories, a fan fiction podcast.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of TF Wire's War Stories. This is episode 14. I'm your host, Steve/Megatron. Today I'm reading a story by Jakeman. This story is an extract from his story called The Hunt. Deep within the levels of Cybertron, there are many secrets, ones which the Decepticons and Autobots have forgotten about. But a handful do know of these secrets. A secret sect of Autobots known only by a few, higher than Optimus Prime himself. They exact missions which only have one outcome, the total eradication of Decepticons. Once the name of this is known by any Transformer, they are doomed to be another victim of their rampage. They are known as the Primus Guild. "Oh, cram it!" shouted Quick Stance as he heard what Krulok was saying. He drank another swig of melted energon and put the glass down. "I'm not joking, Quick Stance. They destroyed a Decepticon research facility on Kranos. Their mark on this ageless war will be here forever." Krulok stopped talking and sat down. He had caused a scene, and the cons around him were starting to notice. "Why are you so high up on this Primus Guild anyway?" shrugged Quick Stance as he took another swig of energon. Krulok looked around nervously. "I saw them. That factory explosion on Kranos, I was there. I saw the white and gold ship, and I believe they saw me," he said with a look of fear in his eyes. Quick Stance got up and led his friend out of the energon bar. They turned into the alleyway behind it. "Listen. The Primus Guild is a load of slag." Quick Stance turned and walked away from Krulok. Krulok slumped onto the ground. Was he going crazy? Was it all just playing in his memory banks as a joke? Krulok got up and started to walk down the alleyway. A light breeze hit him from behind. He turned around and saw a cloaked figure. He could not make out any details except for the blue, glowing eyes. Krulok started to run. But as he turned back, the cloaked figure was right in front of him. "The time of peace is coming, but you Decepticons are ruining Primus's great plan." Those were the last words Krulok heard before he fell to the ground. Nothing was hid as him. It was as the air itself had crushed him. The cloaked figure raised his arm and released a wave of sound. It had opened a portal. The cloaked figure entered it and disappeared, much like that of Krulok's, whose spark had disappeared from existence. News of Krulok's death was not widespread. Any records of him had been deleted. Quick Stance was also gone, and so were his data files as well. Something was not right, Nexus thought to himself while on his computer. He searched for the names again, and they were gone. Nexus had known that Krulok had something important to tell him. Nexus went to go lie down. He was not having a good day. Sometime later, a light hit the eyes of Nexus as he woke from his slumber. There usually wasn't any light here in the underground parts of Cybertron, but today, light seemed to touch this dark place. Nexus got up and looked around. The light that was blinding him seemed to come from a crack in the ceiling of this underground tunnel. Nexus walked over to the crack to take a closer look. A simple drone that was lost in the tunnels. An easy target, but a target nonetheless. "Time for a hunt, my comrades." Nexus turned, and they were behind a group of cons, each with a look of hunger on their faces. "Vanish!" shouted Nexus, and they all went into the shadows. The drone stumbled around the tunnels trying to find its bearings. It had wandered off a simple damage report mission from the latest attack. Now, it was lost in which was known to Autobots and Decepticons as the Labyrinth. Its dark tunnels and partially organic flooring and walls was a dangerous place for any mech. Many reports had come about missing mechs, both Autobot and Decepticon, seemingly wandering in and vanishing without a trace. The drone came through, only gifted with little intelligence, knew about the dangers of this place, and was looking for a way out. As it reached a crossroads, something came up behind it. The drone bleeped and turned around to respond to the unit which had come into contact with, but nothing was there. "You are lost," said a voice as the drone's body was snapped in two from behind. Nexus came into the drone's view and picked up the head of his victim. "I don't usually attack small fries, but you." "We had no choice," said Nexus. He threw the head of the drone to one of the cons, which was behind him. She was a female Decepticon in green and black colors. Next to her was a male Decepticon in orange and black colors, but small in size, but carried a large mace. He followed as the female con walked off with the drone's head. "Are you coming, my lord?" asked the male Decepticon. "No, Graft. Go with Rory. I must see where this drone came from," ordered Nexus as he transformed and drove the opposite way of the two cons. Rory and Graff walked down the tunnel which led them to their headquarters. It was an old run-down Quintesson factory which had been there for eons. The machines did not work anymore, so the smell of death and history filled the area. An old Decepticon walked out of the room and welcomed the two cons back. He was Archer, a veteran of the Great War. His bright colors of what he once was toned down into grays and whites. Rory gave Archer the head of the drone.
"Ah, thank you, Rory,"
chirped the old con. Rory looked back in distaste. She hated being called that. Graff chuckled, but was stopped by Rory, smacking him around the back of the head.
"Where is the young lord?"
asked Archer. "He went to see where this drone came from," answered Graff.
"He always seems to want to know everything. That will be his downfall someday,"
said Archer with regret.
"No, Lord Nexus is the strongest Decepticon ever. He will always be here to protect the Labyrinth," shouted Graff.
Graff was a young con. He looked up to Nexus as a big brother, father figure all in one. The Labyrinth itself had become home for these cons. They knew that the only way to survive the oncoming attacks from Autobots and renegade Decepticons was to hide in the past. They were still Decepticons, but they believed in the old ways of fighting, the ways of honor and cunning, in a sense the true way of a warrior. Archer linked the drone's head to the main computer. Numbers started to appear on the main screen.
"Well, it looks like a damage report drone, nothing more. But it does have Autobot access codes. I think taking them will be no problem,"
said Archer. He assessed the drone's whole memory banks and downloaded them to the computer's main system. Nexus had reached the base camp of the drones, which had been led into the Labyrinth. Nexus crouched down behind the rubble which festered around in these parts of the tunnels to take a closer look. The drones were grouped around a hollow image of a cloaked figure. He could only hear part of the message being sent.
"Find them by any cost. We will the rest."
The message then ended. Nexus started to back away. He had to get back to everyone else before they were found by the drones. If you'd like to hear your fanfic read on a future episode of War Stories, please head on over to tfwire.com. Go to the War Stories forums, post it, and be sure to leave your permission for it to be read. And you just might hear it on a future episode of War Stories. As for now, this is Steve/Megatron, signing off.
The preceding story was not endorsed by Hasbro and is meant for entertainment purposes only. All fanfiction stories are copyrighted to their respective authors, and all fanfiction stories used within this podcast are used with permission from the author. This has been a TFWire.com production.